So we have over like 100 different recovery stories from guys where they just lay out kind of like what some of the main turning points were and things that really helped them get back on track, and then some advice that they give to other guys. So I found those super helpful because you see like some of the same themes like over and over again where guys were just reluctant to reach out. But it really shows you like you're not alone, and there's so many people out who they're experiencing the same things, who all want to get help and get better. And also like guys are sharing their stories because they want to help other guys. So yeah, there's tons of resources on Heads Up Guys. One of the main features is a depression screening tool. So it's like a traditional screening tool that you might see if you go to your doctor's office. It's actually the same one that like I did when I went to my doctor for the first time. And that was really like an eye-opening experience for me, because I remember going through all the symptoms and then realized like just how bad I was doing, because I was ticking off the worst option basically for everything. I think we've helped facilitate over like 20,000 connections between men and therapists. So that's done really well. And then our most recent feature are the courses. So there's one on, these are like self-guided courses you can go through. One on just managing your thoughts, negative thinking. There's one on managing anger and irritability. There's another one on mindfulness for men. And that's really good because I found, even for myself, I found mindfulness to be super helpful.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Manly Convos. I'm Corey Cummins, the founder. For people who haven't joined before, just, our goal is to really destigmatize men's mental health. And we do this in a couple of ways. One, we have conversations with men who've gone through their own journey. We talk to nonprofits and we talk to men's groups. So today I'm really excited. We have Josh on from HeadsUpGuys, which is a nonprofit that started as a part of the University of British Columbia. And it's an amazing program. I've actually been following them. And the one thing I really love is if you ever go to their website is they have different courses and programs to help men with depression, with suicide. They also have a directory of therapists and everything like that. So it's an amazing program. And also I noticed that Josh as well has an extensive background in, different kind of mental health programs himself. And he's a really big advocate of it. And so really excited to have you on, Josh. If you wouldn't mind, I guess, could you kind of talk to us about how you got involved in Heads Up Guys and, where it's kind of come to today?
Sure. So about, 14 years ago now, I went through a pretty tough stretch with depression myself. So this was when I was nearing the end of my bachelor's degree. So I was doing computer science, and I kind of done some co-op, and I realized that it might not be the best fit for me. So I was having a lot of stress and anxiety around that. And that among other things kind of triggered a bit of a downward spiral for me. So that really got me interested once I started getting better to figure out ways how to give back and help other people in the same situation. Because one of the big problems for me was that I just simply didn't reach out soon enough. Like I knew some of the symptoms a bit, or I recognized I was having some symptoms. I was getting kind of like moody and I was getting stressed out, but I didn't really think of it as being anything more than just something I could just put my head down and work through. Like if I had stuff at work that was stressing me out, I was just like, okay, well, I'll just double down and work late and figure it out type of thing. But then that didn't really help. So part of why I got involved in mental health is just to share what I've learned, how other guys avoid sort of similar experiences. So then when I went back to school after to finish up my degree, I ended up taking a semester off. I really wanted to get involved in mental health awareness on campus. So at the University of British Columbia. So then at that time, things were really like spread out and disorganized. And there was a few different mental health clubs, but some of them weren't aware of each other. And there's also other mental health services on campus, like their student health or counseling services, but they didn't have information about like what mental health volunteer groups there were. And then there was like a new peer support group on campus, which I ended up attending and found like super helpful. But at that time, like nobody really knew about it. So I ended up forming what was called like the mental health network at the time. So we got basically like one representative from each of the groups to come, and we did like a monthly meeting to like tell each other what events are coming up. And then we had like a website that just sort of listed all the resources, and we made like a resource page. And then at the same time I was volunteering for the peer support group and doing some facilitating for them. And then I was also managing the student society website. So using a bit of computer science stuff, but a much easier end of it. Welcome back to programming. And then doing their social media. And then I saw this position come up, which was at the time not even to create Heads Up Guys. It was just create a men's mental health website. Like I hadn't even thought of the idea necessarily exactly what it was going to look like. that seemed like a really cool opportunity because it was combining like managing social media, managing a website, but also my interest in mental health. Yeah, so I applied for it, and now it's been almost 10 years, so not really well.
No, that's amazing. Well, I guess before we jump into kind of your kind of experience with mental health and how you kind of, really work through the problems that you struggle with, can you talk a little bit more about what Heads Up Guys offers and everything like that? Because it was something that it's more than just a website. There's a lot to it, and it's something that I think is really powerful, and something that I've noticed that I wish there was more of this, or Heads Up Guys became bigger than what it is. So if you could talk about it a little bit, that'd be great.
Yeah, so there's tons of resources on Heads Up Guys. One of the main features is a depression screening tool. So it's like a traditional screening tool that you might see if you go to your doctor's office. It's actually the same one that like I did when I went to my doctor for the first time. And that was really like quite an eye-opening experience for me because I remember going through all the symptoms and then realized like just how bad I was doing because I was ticking off the worst option basically for everything. So we have that on the website, and that's been filled out more than 500,000 times by men over 18. So
Wow.
it's a lot of traction. And that's really good because depending on your score, it'll point you towards other resources on our website. Yeah, so we have the screen tool, and then we have another screen tool, which is a stress test, which you just kind of list all the stressors in your life, and then you prioritize them, and it just like gives you a list of things like basically to work on first or not. And then we also added a therapist directory a few years ago. So that'll give you a listing of therapists in Canada, the US, and the UK that all have experience providing therapy for men with mental health issues. And then, yeah, that's done really well. I think we've helped facilitate over like 20,000 connections between men and therapists. So that's done really well. And then our most recent feature are the courses. So there's these are like self-guided courses you can go through. Some of them take like an hour to go through. Some of them take a little bit more, some take a bit less. There's one on just managing your thoughts, negative thinking. There's one on managing anger and irritability. There's another one on mindfulness for men. So that's actually, you can do it as fast as you want, but it's kind of like supposed to be like a 4-week course. And that's really good because even for myself, I found mindfulness to be super helpful.
And how are they built? Like who built these programs? Like, was it from you guys, or is it from research that you built, or how did you kind of build all these courses?
Yeah, so we built them, but everything on the website is completely research based, research evidence based. Yeah, so there's that, and then we just released one recently on like healthy relationships.
And it's a healthy relationships within like romantic.
Within romantic,
You mean as
romantic,
okay, romantic. Okay, yeah. No, that's great. And I guess are there any future plans for Heads Up Guys? Because it seems like you've been doing some amazing things with the courses, with the directory, and all those other things. So what is it? I guess what's the future plans for it?
Yeah, there's future plans just to build out kind of what we have. In October, we're launching a self-check suite. So I don't know, kind of carrying out the notion that like the self-check's been like a really useful feature. People like doing quizzes and stuff, but it also points them towards resources. So we're building that out a bit. From our stress tests, we know the top 5 stressors guys are facing, or at least like the most frequent ones, are loneliness and lack of meaning and purpose. Those are like the top 2 by quite a bit. And then stress from work, financial strain, and relationship stress. So we have screening tools for each of those so guys can figure out like how much those stressors are really affecting them, and then also point them towards resources to help them work on that.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So that'll be added in October. And then just to go back to what you're asking before. So the website has like tons of self-help information. The courses are part of it, but there's also just like lots of articles with tips. We try to make everything on Heads Up Guys a little bit more like action orientated or action focused, with really like just practical advice, things that like have worked for other guys and things that are like evidence based as well. There's also a big section for friends and family members and how to support a guy. So we have lots of articles like specifically to like how to support a boyfriend who's dealing with depression, how to support like a boyfriend or husband or partner who's dealing with suicidal thoughts. And those actually bring a lot of traffic to the website as well, because there's a lot of people out there who recognize an issue and a guy that they care about and want to figure out a way to reach out to them. So we actually have examples of like, here are things you can say. Here's how to approach the conversation, just to kind of bring down some of those barriers, bring down some of the stress around having that conversation, and sort of help people figure out how to approach it and kind of like what tactics they can use, and also like signs they can look for suicidal thoughts and things like that.
Now that all sounds great. Like I speak to my therapist about career stuff and things like that, because it's one of those things. It's as you get older, you're like, what do you want to do, and what does it really make sense? And also, you start looking, you're like, oh, I'm almost 40 years old. I don't have X amount of years in the workforce, so what should I be trying to do, before I retire? Which in theory is far away, but not far away. And so, yeah, it can definitely cause strain, especially financial strain, which is different for everybody. But living in a city like London, you're like, how do I, live in London with
Vancouver's pretty expensive, but London is especially expensive. I went there once, I guess like 8 years ago, probably now. Yeah, everything's expensive in London though. Yeah,
it is.
but it was really nice though. I liked it a lot more than I thought it was gonna. I thought it was gonna be like really gloomy, but it was like very vibrant. There was like tons of stuff going on in different neighborhoods, and I don't know.
Well, it can definitely be gray depending on the time of year.
Maybe I got
yeah, but it is a great city. I love it. I'm from New York originally, but I think these resources are great. The one that really resonated with me is if you have a friend or a partner going through stuff, how do you do that? Because I've had some friends, take their lives, and one of them I would have never known. But either way, it's good to kind of review that, because I think a lot of friends don't know what to do or what to say or how to act and things like that. And people are a lot of times very nervous to say the wrong thing. So that's a brilliant resource that I think everybody should read that, because everyone has someone that's going through something difficult, whether it's something that is to the state of like they're depressed, but they still might be really stressed out. So like, how do you help them be a good support system for them? So that's really nice.
Yeah. And a lot of things, well, I don't know. Like we're pretty big on doing therapy, like you mentioned, senior therapists as well. But you don't have to be like at the state where you're like very depressed before you start seeing a therapist. Like it's good to do proactively and preventatively as well.
I always say if you go to the gym, why would you?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah,
exactly. So when you look at your kind of journey, which I appreciate you opening up that you kind of went through depression, I guess, how old were you when you kind of noticed you needed to get help?
So I was like 21, 22. Nice. Yeah, so pretty young still.
Well,
but that's
when a lot of that age
people too. Yeah. So then at the time, a lot of it was just stress around, well, that was kind of part of the problem, is that there were a lot of stressful things going on at the time. So I just sort of thought, okay, well, this is just related to those. So once I get past those, like I'll feel better. But I didn't really realize that, like, okay, the amount of stress I was feeling and the intensity of it was actually like beyond what's healthy. And that should have clued me in a bit earlier to reach out. But instead, yeah.
What were the things you were depressed about? Like, what were the things that kind of got you into that state?
Well, feeling like I wasn't, on the right career path. I also, was single and lonely at the time, but then never talked about that with like anyone. Yeah. And then trying to think, I think those were the biggest two. And then there were other stressors too, like my dog at the time was like sick and kind of having to be put down as well. And then, there were some other small things, but those are the main two. It was like loneliness, and then just, which like ties into lack of meaning and like a purpose, and then figuring out where I want to go with my degree, and then worrying about finances, like how am I going to do things if I don't figure out where I want to be, and all that sort of stuff. So I sort of came to a head near the end of my degree.
Yeah, those are all very stressful. I just had an adopted dog. I grew up with dogs, so that makes me very sad to hear about that. But what was I think a lot of men struggle with, they might be going through something that's really difficult, like what you did, and they feel things, but they don't take action. So I guess, like, what was the thing that was there something that like kind of switched or triggered that you go, okay, I actually really need to go figure this out or work on it? Like, what was the thing that kind of made you take that step?
For me, it wasn't like any like revelation in a good sense. It was like I was hiding things, and then basically like I didn't sleep very much at all for like a week. So I got to the point where I could not physically hide how bad I was doing. And that was when I was living with my parents at the time. So then I first did was I told them, like, I think something more serious is going on. Like, I'm way too stressed out and like this isn't good. And then I went and saw my doctor, whereas that's when I did like the depression screening tool. And like right away it was very clear like I was severely depressed already. Yeah. So that's one of the things we want to prevent guys from doing. Like you should not have to hit rock bottom before you reach out. And you can still get better when you do, but it makes it a lot easier if you start when you're just noticing the signs. So if I'd started getting help, well, even like years earlier, but if I'd started getting help like 6 months before that, 4 months before that, it would have prevented me from going through a whole lot of like really negative and stressful and just painful experiences.
And so how long did you go to therapy for then?
Well, I started seeing a therapist at an outpatient clinic at a hospital near us. So that was about a month long. And then I switched to seeing a different therapist through a community like based service. And then after that, I started seeing a psychiatrist a few months later. So there was a big wait list to see psychiatrists, and like there was a big wait list. Yeah. And then since then, I've been seeing somebody to at different degrees for, since then, basically. So right now I see a therapist like once a month. I find that's like a pretty good balance to make sure I, sort of face like the issues that I'm going through. And then one of the things I thought I found in therapy too, is like when I first started, I didn't really even like trust the therapist to tell them what was going on or what was stressing me out. Cause I was like, I don't know you. Like, why do I have to tell you things that are like really painful to me, So then it took me a while to get used to even just like talking about things and like actually admitting like, okay, well, these are the things that are stressing me out the most. Like, let's have some like, I guess, difficult conversations around them, but then let's work through the issues together. Another part of the problem for me at the time was like, there were things I didn't want to talk about, like even like just mentioning feeling lonely and things like that. Like I didn't want to talk about that. So unless I was asked directly, I would just kind of like avoid the conversation because it was too embarrassing to me at the time. So like the way I approach therapy now is like much healthier, where like sometimes I'll even write down like a list, like these are the 5 things I want to talk about. And that way, like I can't make an excuse halfway because they don't feel like talking about this. So yeah, it helps keep me honest that way.
No, I think it's awesome. You go every month. I go in waves. So I'll go for 6 months and work on something, and then I'll usually take a little bit of a break, and then I come back to it like 4 or 5 months later. But I think going to once a month I think it's a great thing. There's always something in life that kind of gets thrown at you that if you have someone who can kind of help you understand it and process it, work through it, it's incredibly powerful. And so yeah, it's awesome that you do that, and hopefully other men will kind of hear that, because I talked to all of my friends about it. I understand that it can be pricey, but in the UK there are ways to get help that's more affordable and things like that, especially if you have private insurance through your work or things like that. So yeah, there's good ways around it, but
Yeah. Yeah, the coverage right now is a lot better than it used to be. Like when I was a student, I think you could get up to like $500 covered, something like that, which is just like a couple of appointments,
Yeah.
So whereas now, even the student plan now at UBC is much better. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's better. And then also the counseling services that they provide at UBC are much better. Before it was almost like when I went, it was like they can talk to you once and they can't really like afford to follow up. Like it just wasn't really available. Whereas now you can kind of get short-term counseling for a few weeks to kind of get you back on track and figure out like what other services you can access on a longer-term basis. So things are getting better, which is great to see too.
Yeah, when I was in university, it was the mental health wasn't a discussion.
Yeah.
I'm like 38 and a half. And then I remember I was actually surprised with when I moved to England 8.5 years ago, when I then 2 years into moving here, I started my own business, and you can actually get private insurance as an individual here. And it's not crazy expensive. It's not like the US where you don't have a company. Yeah, it's nuts. Here you can actually have private insurance by yourself, like top tier private insurance, like £200 a month, which is, it's still a decent amount of money. But the fact that like you can get full coverage, like travel insurance, all of it. Yeah, and I had mental health coverage. I was like, what's this? So I couldn't believe it. So yeah, it's exciting to see that stuff is being covered by insurance, because that'll make it way more accessible to people. So I think it's a brilliant thing to do. But I have a couple questions that I always like to ask at the end of this. So I have them down here just to make sure I don't forget it. So can you tell me about the person who shaped your values the most?
I guess probably my parents would probably be the main two. So yeah, so for them it was always like, be honest, be hardworking, be true to yourself kind of thing. Yeah. And those are like the main, yeah, just like be kind, be caring. Those are kind of the main values that they present to me. Also like be open and like accepting of others and all that sort of stuff.
I like that. I like that. And two more questions. So if you died tonight, what would you regret not doing?
I guess just like telling people that I care about them more. I still try to do that. Like to take a second once in a while to say like, I'm not saying super cheesy, but like it was fun hanging out tonight, or like it was good to see you this weekend. Just a little bit more than I like would in the past, to make sure people know like I'm gonna stay mean to you.
Yeah, you just saying that made me think I do it sometimes, but I don't do it enough.
Yeah,
Definitely made me be like, no, I
there's
need to
probably
do
things
it a
you
little
can
more.
improve.
Hey, well, if we all say it to each other, if we all keep reminding each other how much, then hopefully it will be a circle that keeps going around. But I think it's something we definitely don't do, and it's something I think people need to hear. So yeah, I think that's a great one. And then actually two more questions. So the other one was, in the next couple of years, we're a chapter. What would that chapter be for you?
Yeah, well, that's one of the things I'm still trying to figure out a little bit.
Okay.
Like I'm still working at HeadsUpGuys. We have all these funding saved up for a couple more years, so and we're always like constantly doing fundraising and stuff. So yeah, I really want to. Like right now, we have like so much information on the site. It's almost like too much information. So we want to go back and condense things a bit, and then just make things a little bit easier to find on the website. Right now, there's like tons of stuff. You can use a search and you'll find like everything you want. But just to make it a bit, more user friendly. Yeah, and tie a few features together too. And then in my personal life, like the last year, I've been, I don't know, focused mostly on like my physical health and getting into better shape. So like in Vancouver, we have tons of good like hiking trails and things like that. So there's a lot of ones that I've like wanted to do before, but like haven't been in the best shape to do, or like I could do it, but it wouldn't be fun the whole time. So I've been trying to get into better shape to do more of that stuff. So I want to continue on to that. And then I haven't done like a big travel trip in a while. So actually in 3 weeks, I'm going to Europe with a friend. So we're going to Italy and Spain. So that'll be really fun.
Amazing. Well, I've never been. I've always wanted to go to Vancouver Islands. I heard it's supposed to be incredible for outdoors.
Yeah, Vancouver.
So I'd love to go there. Then well, I love Spain and Italy. I go there a lot living in London. It's a beautiful place. Actually, I'll be in Italy in September for a friend's wedding in Tuscany. So, but it's a little bit easier for me to get there than for you because you're way farther than.
Once you're over in Europe, it's easy to get around.
Yeah, and the flights are a lot cheaper here to travel around. And then one other question. So I know obviously Heads Up Guys provides a lot of knowledge, a lot of information, but something I always like to ask people, because books are sometimes an easy way for people to jump into something. Are there any books you recommend that kind of really resonated with you for someone to be able to pick up and read?
There is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. So that was it's a very powerful book. That's pretty short read too, so it's good. And there's also a few other like psych books. So there was a book on mindfulness I read by it's like Mindfulness for Depression, I think. So like one of the first times I tried doing mindfulness was at a group, and I was just like, we first started doing like a body scan, and I had never done anything like that before, and I was just like, what is going on here? So then I ended up reading the book and then doing stuff on my own, and I found that like super helpful. And then like, Stumbling on Happiness was a book that I found pretty helpful. So it's like psychological, just about happiness. And also talks a little bit about how, I think it was that book, like how mental health can affect your perceptions. So like when you're in a really like depressed state and you're looking forward to the future, you're going to look at it from like a very negative lens. And then same also when you're looking back at the past. So like when I'm really best, like it won't feel like I've ever accomplished anything, or won't feel like anything I've done have meant anything. But just being more aware of that. So like, okay, when I'm feeling like this, I can't really trust my thoughts about the past. Like I'd have to look more objectively, like, well, I have photos where I was smiling and having fun. So like I clearly was having some fun. And same with projecting things into the future too. So those 3 books were really helpful. And then also I guess one thing that's been helpful, which ties back into the website, but we have like a lot of recovery stories on the site. So we have over like 100 different recovery stories from guys where they just lay out kind of like what some of the main turning points were, and things that really helped them get back on track, and then some advice that they give to other guys. So I found those super helpful because you see like some of the same themes like over and over again where guys were just reluctant to reach out. And it really shows you like you're not alone. And there's so many people out they're experiencing the same things, who all want to get help and get better. And also like guys are sharing their stories because they want to help other guys. So it's really cool to see people like opening up about, yeah, kind of vulnerable or painful experiences with the goal of just like helping other guys avoid those experiences. So that really resonates with me as well. Yeah, and if you go to our site and go to like articles and stories, and then go to recovery stories, there are tons there with guys from like all different walks of life, like all different experiences. So you can really find one that like really resonates with you. And that's a really cool part of this website too. I forgot to mention earlier.
Yeah, oh, that's perfect. Well, thanks for that. I really appreciate you jumping on today. It was really great learning about Heads Up Guys. I hope people listening go check it out because it has some amazing resources and things that I think could really help people kind of start their journey and to also help the partners and things like that. So yeah, thanks for joining and looking forward to getting this on our website.
Sure. Thanks, Corey. Actually, I have one question first. How did you
Sure.
find out about Heads Up Guys?
So yeah, the way I found out about it was just through social media. So
Okay,
on Instagram. So yeah, that's the way I found out about it. So yeah, I went just searching on Instagram and stuff like that. And that's kind of how it popped up.
cool. Good.